Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar with ZoomInfo and C-Level Connections, how to reach decision makers and shorten the sales cycle. My name is Lauren Barber and I work in the marketing department here at ZoomInfo. If you're not familiar with ZoomInfo, we're a B2B database software company that delivers business data to supercharge marketing campaigns and sales outreach. And if you're not familiar with C-Level Connections, they enable you to leverage your business development efforts without hiring and training additional sales personnel. Before we get started, I wanted to address a few items. First, if you have a question throughout the webinar, please ask us using the GoToWebinar chat or on Twitter using #ZoomInfoWebinar. Also, all attendees will receive a recording of the slide deck within 48 hours. Today's speakers are Maria Malavenda, who is the Vice President of Corporate Development at ZoomInfo, and Bonnie Rodden, who's the President at C-Level Connections. All right, let's get started. On to you, Maria.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us. So today, what we'd like to talk about is provide you with a description of our current universe in which we operate. We're going to go over the individualized approach in insight selling. Then we'll discuss steps to reaching decision makers faster. Making the sales process more efficient will then be discussed, and we'll go over some key takeaways. So to start, a description of our current universe. As you can see, we've got statistics coming from every angle. Ones that I wish to highlight are, number one, 90% of the world's data has been created over the last 2 years. And then the second, which is enterprises store 80% of their data. One of the things to understand about storing all this data is that we can get into issues about data integrity and data decay. And this is an increasing issue. One thing that we do know and recognize is that data is at the center of every business decision made. That data must be relevant, accurate, and actionable so you are able to drive successful results. Another area for us to understand and recognize that people are ever changing. And you can see here we've got statistics that represent everything from annual turnover to people's phone numbers and the rate of change there to people changing their jobs on an annual basis. There are 120 million full-time employed individuals in the United States today, 40% of whom will change positions over the next 12 months. So if you take a look at that, that's 3 million a month. So are you ensuring that you have your contact data in a relevant, accurate, and actionable state and that it's fresh? So again, understanding the rate of change at 3 million people a month. More importantly, how do you know if it is? One of the other things that we want to recognize is that with this rate of change, with all the data that we're consuming, and with the rate of change on technology, more importantly, all of these different factors allow us to have access to information, of course, access to people. What we're being expected by our current prospects is that we have insights into what their needs are, their wants. So there's a shift to insight selling, and that's more delivering the right insight in the right way, which requires determining what the customer has already concluded about their needs and available solutions. We also must identify and recognize who the decision makers are, and often they're not the usual suspects. So what will it take for us and the information that we've gathered and the knowledge that we have to change their minds to drive success? So again, further, insight selling. There's various levels to this. And the way that we like to describe it is level one, you connect. You connect the dots between your customer needs and the company's solutions while also connecting with the buyers as people, not as individuals that might want to buy your opportunity, but treating them as people. Level two, We move into convince. We need to convince the buyers that they can achieve maximum return, that the risks are acceptable, and that the seller is the best choice among all options. And of course, level 3, which is collaborate. Collaborate with your buyers by bringing new ideas to the table, delivering new ideas and insights, and working with the buyers as a team. One of the things that we do want to recognize with all of this is that 95% of B2B purchases were directly influenced by insightful content. So, and then what steps can you take to reaching the decision makers faster? Identify your target market. Understand their business and business imperatives. Ensure that you have relevant, insightful content and clearly define the value proposition. Segment your current prospect personas. And then, of course, fuel your funnel with the net new contacts. So if we talk about that in further detail, how do you identify your target market? Have you considered their job function, company size, and industry when segmenting your buyer personas? Who are these people? Where are they located? What is their company size and revenue? What's their job title? And more importantly, what other areas of information or insights can you bring about that individual, as I said to you, to drive to insightful selling? Segment your current prospect personas. Are they vice presidents of demand gen? Are they vice presidents of sales? Are they vice presidents of sales ops? Are they managers, director level? Who are they? Where do they sit within the organization and operation? And more importantly, how are they making decisions and what are they overall responsible for? The more we understand about the people that we are trying to connect with, the more success you will drive. And then last but not least, as we said, we fuel our funnel with new contacts. We match our personas with those contacts to the opportunities. Once we've identified those buyers and how we can now use a tool such as ZoomInfo to fuel our funnel with net new contacts, matching the characteristics of the best buyers, we're able to drive successful campaigns, successful lead gen opportunities for relevancy, accuracy, and again, that are actionable, leading to success. So now I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie, who's going to describe best practices, making the sales process more efficient.
Thank you, Maria. Very interesting, and thank you all for joining the presentation. Yes, I think one of the key factors in shortening the sales cycle begins at the very beginning of the sales cycle. We call this the pre-sales phase. And we recommend in the pre-sales appointment setting function is separated from the actual sales function. And in separating these two functions, the sales team can become up to 35%, I've even seen up to 50% more efficient with their time. They no longer spend valuable time lead gathering, qualifying leads, emailing, cold calling. And some of you may be surprised to learn that on average, from our experience, it takes a good 7 hours of lead gathering or 6 to 7 touch points, calling and emailing to schedule one qualified meeting with the decision maker. What does this mean? What does this mean for your sales team? This means that if you have a highly paid salesperson and their goal is to schedule just 3 new meetings per week or say 12 meetings per month, she's going to spend 50% of her time or 40 hours per month on pre-sales tasks instead of moving the prospects through the pipeline. Next. So I don't mean to chat about the obvious, but separating the pre-sales from the sales function is going to help your salespeople build a pipeline faster. They're spending time researching prospective buyers, they're uncovering the buyer's goals and pain points, and then they're spending time custom tailoring presentations. In fact, if they can use the 80 hours per month that they're no longer doing the pre-sales activities to move qualified prospects through the pipeline, then they're going to be able to manage multiple opportunities. Next, please. Okay, so how to shorten the sales cycle. Not only does the pre-sales function help the salespeople, but it also helps marketing and sales managers, because the marketing and the sales managers can gain immediate insight into their initiatives. And say, for example, if you're launching a new product or service to an existing market, or say, for example, you're introducing your solution to a new distribution network. For example, say you've sold your product through the channel, and now you'd like to sell through using a direct sales team. Wouldn't it be incredibly beneficial to you if you knew almost immediately if your messaging is resonating with prospects, if you're targeting the right decision makers? And the pre-sales people who are on the front line making hundreds of calls per day, they're sending hundreds of emails to targeted decision makers, they have an immediate sense of what's working and what is not working. In fact, their immediate feedback is going to save the sales and marketing team's valuable time and expense. And I just want to give you a few stories from some of our clients and how they were able to, use the pre-sales team to help them. One story, we were building an appointment setting program for one of our clients, and in fact, I met this client at the Salesforce convention, and he's the VP of sales, said, our target market is all companies in the Inc. 5000 list. And so when we were just defining his target market in terms of industry focus, revenue size, decision makers' titles and such, he just kept insisting, nope, all we want you to do is target the Inc. 5000 list. So anyway, after a few days into our call campaign, we very quickly recognized that 80% of the companies on the Inc. 5000 list had revenue less than $50 million. So when we met with him during our weekly meeting, we mentioned to them that, we're not going to be successful with your call campaign. So long story short, we use ZoomInfo, which we use for all of our lead gathering, and we downloaded a lead list for them based on all their target market, all their criteria. And then it wasn't long before we started scheduling qualified meetings with them. In fact, we started out just scheduling 10 meetings per month with them, and now we're up to approximately 65 meetings per month. So it was incredibly successful, and they got immediate feedback that they were targeting the wrong market using that Inc. 5000 list. And another client we've worked with, they actually sold their medical technology solutions to home health care facilities, and they hired C-level to introduce their solutions to decision makers at hospitals. So after several months of scheduling qualified meetings for their salespeople, we could not understand why these meetings weren't resulting in closed opportunities. In fact, their CEO called me and started chatting about it. Well, long story short, one of our very smart pre-sales telesales people discovered that the salespeople were using slides geared toward home health instead of slides geared to hospitals. So it just goes on and on. We have story after story to, tell you about how invaluable it is to get this information quickly so that you are targeting the appropriate audience. For sales managers, the sales managers are usually thrilled if they have the resources to actually be able to hire or implement an in-house pre-sales team, appointment setters, inside sales, because they know that there's, of course, a direct correlation between number of meetings scheduled and number of closed opportunities. And honestly, they're getting immediate feedback too, as well as they're gaining better information about their sales representatives. Do their sales teams have the product knowledge and professionalism needed to make them successful? Next, please. So now the decision is, say you've decided, okay, we want to become more efficient with our sales process. Should we try to implement an in-house pre-sales solution, or should we outsource this? So, and many of our clients have tried to set up an in-house pre-sales program, and they were quite surprised by how difficult it is to implement. And there are many factors to consider, including that, in implementing an in-house program, You really must invest in sales and marketing technology. A CRM system is a must. You've got to create the process-oriented, metrics-driven program. You have to ensure that these pre-sales folks follow sales process. They make the 80 to 100 outbound calls per day. They send an email directly after they make their outbound calls to ensure that they are located on site. If they're not located on site, there's absolutely no control over the level of professionalism or delivery of their message. And of course, they should be trained in the same sales methodologies that your salespeople are trained in. They can't just put them on the phone. They have to, understand sales process, sales methodology. Personally, I've been doing this for 25 years. I would ensure that you hire college-educated pre-sales representatives, particularly if there's a complex sale, and also make sure that you hire an experienced inside sales telesales manager. Next slide, please. And then let's see, the benefits of outsourcing the pre-sales function is, of course, the obvious. It's no overhead. You don't have to worry about workspace, computers, phones, tools. No, you don't have to worry about hiring an inside sales manager. Our director of operations, our inside sales manager, has 15 years of pre-sales experience. He was in special forces, so as you can imagine, we run a very tight ship here. And the inside sales manager also, you have to have a team lead to help coach, mentor, monitor the telesales people. In most cases, if you outsource this, you can typically get performance-based pricing. And of course, the management can gain insight into issues, whether it be issues with messaging, targeted lead lists, or sales personnel. In fact, I think if you outsource this function, sometimes the information you gather may even be more transparent because, if it's in-house, sometimes people are worried about stepping on other people's toes and such. So anyway, I just wanted to give you one last story, and this is quite a success story. Some of the people who hire us for this pre-sales function, either they have their own inside sales team, sometimes they have even an appointment setting team, and they like to augment these teams. And in some cases, they're thinking about setting up an inside sales pre-sales team, but they'd like to try it out first to see if it's successful. So one of our clients who sells business intelligence software, they actually hired a person to develop and manage an inside sales team. He had been phenomenally successful in the past, and they were under tremendous pressure from the investors to schedule meetings and ramp sales. So they made the decision to hire C-level to get their program jump-started. So anyway, we went to work creating their messaging. We downloaded the targeted lead list. We trained our inside sales people on their solutions, and in 3 months, we built their pipeline to $5 million in revenue. In fact, their management team was so thrilled they did a video for us. You'll find it on our website. And then they took it in-house, and they were transparent with us. They said, look, for 6 to 9 months, we just want to see if this is going to work. We've got to ramp sales, and then we're going to take it in-house. And they did, and they're actually one of our best references. So anyway, I think we turn it over to you, Maria, with the key takeaways.
Thank you, Bonnie. So in closing, what we want to make sure that we all understand here is in order to drive successful results, we need to make sure that our data is relevant, accurate, and actionable. So we used to hear content is king, so that still holds true. And remember that one size doesn't fit all. We can't just take a broad brushed approach to everybody. The more personalized we make it, the better results we're going to get. And if you think about it in ways of what Starbucks did with their coffee and identifying every individual that walked into that room, trying to make the fact that even though you're probably ordering the same coffee drink, the fact that they made it important for you or appear to be relevant to what your needs were, they continue to be successful. And then lastly, to shorten the sales cycle, let the pre-sales team lead gather, lead nurture, and make the outbound calls, send personalized emails, and set qualified meetings for your sales team. This will help you to become much more efficient and proficient and get to a point of close much more quickly. So now we're going to open it up for questions.
If any of you do have any questions, since we're running short on time, please reach out to Maria or Bonnie. Their emails are on this slide right here. And again, you'll be receiving a copy